March 2004. Deep in the Shopian district of Jammu and Kashmir, the mountains were buried under a thick blanket of snow. Somewhere between the tree line and the silence, a small wooden house stood completely still. Outside, a cold wind scraped through the pines. On a clay stove, a pot of kawa simmered quietly, and beside that stove stood a young man. Long beard, hair falling past his shoulders, an AK-47 resting across his back. His face completely, unnervingly calm. To anyone watching, he looked like he belonged here, like this valley had raised him, like this cold was his home. His name, as far as anyone knew, was Iftekhar Bhatt, but that name was not his own. Inside that house, two men sat on a wooden cot. These were not ordinary men. Abu Turara and Abu Sabzar, two of the most feared commanders of Hizbul Mujahideen, an outfit whose very name had cast a long shadow over southern Kashmir for years. They spoke in low voices, but their eyes kept drifting back toward the door, toward Iftekhar. Something about his stillness unsettled them. Only 2 weeks earlier, this young man had walked into their world with a story soaked in grief. He said that 3 years ago, the Indian army had killed his elder brother in an encounter, that ever since, rage had been building inside him, that he wanted to act, that he was ready. He had even brought them a detailed plan, a strike on an army convoy, entry and exit routes, guard positions, patrol timings, everything laid out with a precision that silenced doubt. Both commanders had been impressed from the very first meeting. But now, on the eve of the operation, Abu Turara felt something he hadn't expected. A splinter of suspicion. The kawa was ready. Iftekhar carried 3 cups into the room on a small tray, placed it beside the cot without a word, and sat down at the edge. The 3 of them drank in silence. Minutes passed. Nothing moved. Then Abu Turara called his name, said it was the last time he would ask, and looked him straight in the eyes. "Who are you, really?" Iftekhar said nothing. The silence pressed down on the room like a weight. Turara raised his voice. Same question. Harder this time. Slowly, Iftekhar set his cup on the floor. He stood. He lifted the rifle off his shoulder and placed it down beside him. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but there was not a tremor in it. "If you have even a shadow of doubt about me, pick up that gun and shoot me right now, because an operation built on distrust is an operation that has already failed, and I would rather die here than walk into that with you doubting me." Abu Turara raised his AK-47 and aimed it directly at Iftekhar. The room held its breath. Abu Sabzar glanced at Turara. Their eyes met. A slow, almost imperceptible nod. Sabzar lowered his rifle. Both men reached again for their cups, and in that exact moment, the sound of a pistol being cocked cut through the quiet. 2 shots. Hidden beneath his clothing, Iftekhar had drawn a 9mm pistol faster than the eye could follow. The first bullet, Abu Turara. The second, Abu Sabzar. 2 of the most wanted men in southern Kashmir fell to the floor of that small room and never rose again. Iftekhar sat back down, picked up his cup, and quietly finished his kahwa, as though nothing had happened at all. But this was not a falling out between criminals. This was not betrayal from within. This was one of the most daring undercover operations ever carried out by the Indian Army, because Iftekhar Bhatt was never real. He was Captain Mohit Sharma, Commando of the 1 Para-Special Forces. This is where the real story begins. A story that starts in a middle-class home and ends in the highest halls of military honor. Mohit Sharma was born on January 13, 1978, in Haryana. His father, Rajendra Sharma, was a bank officer with Punjab National Bank. His mother, Sushila Sharma, worked at the Delhi Jal Board. Their home ran on discipline, routine, and the belief that education was the path to a stable life. Mohit was deeply close to his elder brother Madhur, just 13 months between them in age, but worlds apart in the paths they would choose. Their parents had a simple dream for both sons: engineering degrees, steady jobs, safe lives. Madhur had once wanted to join the Air Force. He prepared for the NDA exam but did not make the cut. With the family's wishes weighing on him, he turned to engineering. But the dream he had carried did not disappear. It passed, silently, into his younger brother. From his school days, Mohit was sharp and focused, but there was something else burning underneath. In 1995, after completing his 12th at Delhi Public School, Ghaziabad, he enrolled under family pressure at the Sri Sant Gajanan Maharaj College of Engineering in Maharashtra. From the outside, everything looked normal, but inside that hostel room, Mohit was fighting a completely different battle. While other students buried themselves in assignments, Mohit was solving NDA practice papers at night, reading current affairs before sunrise. Training his body for a life the textbooks never mentioned, he appeared for the NDA examination. Weeks passed. No result reached him. The anxiety grew. What Mohit did not know was that the result had already arrived at his home, and his parents had quietly set it aside. They were afraid. If he saw his name on that list, engineering would be finished before it had begun. But Mohit called the UPSC office directly, gave his roll number, and when he heard the answer, he was on the merit list. The SSB interview call letter was sitting at home, waiting for him. He did not pause to think. He headed straight to Bhopal for the interview. When his parents found out, they pleaded, they reasoned, they worried. Mohit told them simply, the Indian Army, or nothing. They had no answer to that. The interview was cleared, but one more wall stood between him and the uniform. The medical examination showed he was 6 kilograms below the required weight. He had 4 weeks to fix it. This is the moment where his mother enters the story in a way no one expected. The same woman who had stood against his decision now became its most committed supporter. Milk, bananas, ghee, a high-protein diet built with the care of someone who understood that her son's dream had become her own. In 4 weeks, Mohit gained 8 kilograms. The medical was cleared, and India was about to receive the officer who would go on to write history. 3 years of NDA training at Kadakwasla, Pune, turned Mohit Sharma into something different. Boxing champion, equestrian trophy winner, strong in the water, strong in the ring. But he was never just a fighter. He played the guitar, the mouth organ, the synthesizer. He was a man of many registers, hardness on the outside, depth within. In 1999, during his training at the Indian Military Academy in Dehradun, the Kargil War broke out. Every day, the television brought reports of sacrifice, of soldiers fighting in impossible terrain. Each broadcast put more iron into him. On December 11th, 1999, he was commissioned as 2nd Lieutenant into the 5th Battalion of the Madras Regiment. That night, while friends celebrated, someone asked him where he hoped to be posted. Without hesitation, he said, "Wherever the real fight is, where we meet the enemy face to face." In 2000, his posting came through Poonch Rajouri sector in Jammu and Kashmir with the 38 Rashtriya Rifles. It was here, for the first time, that he worked alongside the commandos of para-special forces. Their precision, their courage, their way of moving through danger as though it were simply another landscape. It changed something in him permanently. From that moment, he carried one goal above all others. One day, he would earn that maroon beret. His performance during counterinsurgency operations drew the attention of senior officers. In 2002, he was awarded the Chief of Army Staff Commendation Medal for his leadership and bravery in the field. In June 2003, he cleared the grueling para-forces selection process, one of the most demanding in the Indian military, and joined the elite 1 Para-Special Forces. By December 2003, he had been promoted to captain, and by then, the Kashmir Valley was entering one of its most volatile periods. Militant networks were expanding. Hizbul Mujahideen was actively recruiting local youth, using grievance, ideology, and pressure to pull them away from their families and into violence. The commanders driving this network, men like Abu Torara and Abu Sabzar, operated from deep cover, hidden among civilians. Getting reliable intelligence on their movements had become nearly impossible for conventional forces. The army needed someone who could do what no weapon could, someone who could walk into that world, earn its trust and dismantle it from within. There was only one name that came to mind. Captain Mohit Sharma accepted the mission without hesitation. The plan was precise. He would be given a new identity. Iftekhar Bhatt, a young man from the valley consumed by grief and rage, whose elder brother had been killed by the Indian army 3 years earlier. To make that identity hold, Mohit transformed himself completely. He grew his beard, let his hair fall long. He adopted Kashmiri dress and mannerisms. He learned Dogri and Urdu fluently enough to pass. He memorized verses from the Quran. He attended the mosque regularly, and then he walked into the valley as someone else. For nearly 2 months, he moved through Shopian and the surrounding villages as an ordinary resident. He spoke with people, shared his fabricated grief, let the story breathe. Slowly, he appeared on Hizbul's radar. They saw in Iftekhar what they were looking for: someone with anger, someone with motivation, someone who could be used. In March 2004, Iftekhar Bhatt, Captain Mohit Sharma, was brought before Abu Sabzar and Abu Torara. He repeated his story. He showed them the attack plan he had prepared: patrol movements, mountain trails, entry and exit routes. They were convinced. Over the next 2 weeks, Mohit lived with them inside their most protected safe house, the same location from which they had planned operations against India. During those 2 weeks, they trained him. They showed him weapons handling. They shared details of their supply routes, movement patterns, and other hideouts. Mohit was absorbing everything, and everything he learned was being passed back to Indian intelligence. Then, the final operation was set: an attack on an army unit, scheduled for the following afternoon. A consignment of grenades was expected that night. 3 more operatives would arrive by morning, and the mastermind of the strike, Iftekhar Bhatt himself. But that night, doubt crept into Abu Torara. He told the others something felt wrong, that all they really knew about Iftekhar was what Iftekhar had told them. And that is when Mohit walked in with 3 cups of kahwa. What happened next has already been told. The question, the silence, the rifle set down, the challenge issued with absolute calm. The AK-47 raised, the nod. The rifles lowered, and then 2 shots. The mission that had taken months to build was over in seconds. 2 of Hizbul Mujahideen's most senior commanders had been neutralized. Their network's intelligence, routes, contacts, safe houses was now in Indian army hands. The following morning, Iftekhar Bhatt ceased to exist. Captain Mohit Sharma walked back to base. In 2004, he was awarded the Sena Medal for this extraordinary act of courage. In November 2004, he married Rishima Sharma. In December 2005, he was promoted to the rank of Major. In October 2008, as the security situation worsened again, he was recalled to Kashmir. For months, he moved through frozen ridgelines and dense forests, tracking threats that never announced themselves. This was the life he had chosen, and he had never once looked back. On the evening of March 20th, 2009, Major Mohit Sharma was at his base in Kupwara, preparing for the next operation with his team. Then an urgent call came from the sector commander. A group of trained militants had crossed the line of control and moved into the dense forests of Hapura. Mohit gave the order immediately. No delay, no debate. The following morning, March 21st, his team entered those forests. This was not ordinary terrain: snow-covered trails, dense undergrowth, bitter cold, every direction a potential ambush. Mohit divided the team into 3 sections and began following footprints pressed into the snow. They had barely moved into position when the militants opened fire from 3 directions simultaneously. The ambush had been set long before the team arrived. Major Mohit immediately ordered his men to fall back and find cover. When a havildar urged him to take cover as well, Mohit's answer was direct: "You go first, I will follow." He stayed in the open, drawing fire onto himself so his men could move to safety. A bullet struck his hand. He wrapped the wound with cloth and kept firing. Lance Naik Subhash was operating the MGL when he was wounded and could no longer hold position. Major Mohit moved forward, took control of the weapon, and continued firing until 4 militants had been eliminated. As he turned back toward his team, a second bullet struck the left side of his chest, in the gap where his bulletproof vest offered no protection. He was bleeding heavily. But when his men reached for him, he told them, "Nothing has happened. Keep firing. This is exactly what we are here for." Leaning against a tree, he continued directing fire and shielding his team from the direct line of attack. Over the radio, his voice kept coming through, "Do not stop firing." And then, slowly, his voice faded. The body was giving way, but the eyes, by all accounts, stayed open until the very end. When the message reached base camp that Major Mohit could no longer move, no one wanted to believe it. Major Mohit Sharma attained martyrdom in the forests of Hapura. He was 31 years old. The operation lasted 5 days in total. 8 Indian soldiers were killed in the fighting, but before they fell, 17 militants had been eliminated. Major Mohit Sharma is no longer with us, but his story does not fade. It lives in every soldier who hears it. It sits quietly in every act of selfless courage that asks nothing in return. For his extraordinary valor and his ultimate sacrifice, Major Mohit Sharma was posthumously awarded the Ashoka Chakra, India's highest peacetime gallantry honor. In Ghaziabad, a metro station bears his name. A road carries it. A statue stands in his memory. These are not just symbols. They are this nation's way of remembering that the peace we take for granted was purchased by those who gave everything, quietly, completely, without hesitation. Men like Major Mohit Sharma, Jai Hind.